Teexpert have very kindly sent me out their UV dip resin for wire flower kit, but instead of making flowers today, we're going to make a dragonfly, and I'm going to use this mold that I've got as a like sort of template. So with the dip resin kit, you get two different colors of wire, the silver and the gold. You get your instructions, you get some round nose, I think that's what they are, round nose pliers, and you also get a selection of these different sizes of sort of round peg shapes to shape your wire. And they've also very kindly sent me out their coloured UV resin. So I've got the white, the black, red, yellow and blue. And these bottles are huge, 100 grams, really good size bottles those. Right, so let's get started. So these pliers also have the little bit in there that you can use to snip the wire. So we're going to start off by cutting off a couple of bits of the wire. So that bit there, let's do another bit the same length and then snip that off. And then we need to wrap these around the wooden pegs. So I'm gonna, let's do one at a time. Wrap that round there. Come on. There we go. And then give that a twist. And then we're going to slide that off. And then we're going to do the same with this one. So wrap that round, give that a good twist. And then slide that off. So we've got two there the same. So now I'm just going to use my fingers and stretch that out. Let's see if that's the right sort of size. I'm going to use this as a template. So that's looking okay for the top ones. So let's just give those a bit more of a shape. Bend that bottom bit out a bit maybe. Let's have a look. That'll be okay, I think. The other thing is you've got to make sure it's going to fit in the pot. So that's those two. So let's make the smaller ones next. So I think I'll use that one and that one. So again, let's cut off another two pieces of wire. Doesn't need to be quite so long this time. So that bit there and that bit there. Snip that off. Right, let's see if these two here will be the right size for the smaller wing. So we're going to twist that round again, making sure we've got that nice and tight at the base there. Slide that off. That should be okay, I think. Let's do the other one and then we can get them to the right shape. So same again with this one. Twist that round. Nice and tight at the base. Slide that off. So we've got another two the same. So I'm going to give those a pull and then squeeze those a bit smaller. Oh, they could have been done with being a bit bigger. Let's just see if I can get that to a bit more of a point. Stretch that out a little bit. Yeah, they could have been a bit bigger really, couldn't they? But will it matter if the back ones are slightly smaller? It's only a guideline, isn't it? So let's get those the same. Let's have a look. So we've got that one and that one. I think that'd be okay. What do you think? Yeah, let's go with that. So next we want to dip these in the resin. So I'm just going to pop some gloves on. I've made another set in gold, just doing it exactly the same way as I did for the silver, so we can make a silver and a gold one. So next, let's get this open, and then I think the idea is just to dip it in, so straight in and straight out. So I'm going to dip that in up to where it's coiled, and then take that straight back out. Let the most of that resin drip off. Let's give it a little swish on the side. Cover that over. So that's how it's looking. And then we're just going to cure that under a UV light. And I'm just going to twist it as it's curing. So that's our first one done. Beautiful. So same again, let's just turn that light off. Let's do the second little one. So same again, just dip that straight in, back out, let any excess drip off. Just going to give that a wipe across the side, and then let's get the lid back on that, out the way of the light, and cure that one. So that's our second one done. Right, so next we want to do these larger ones. So I'm hoping they're going to fit in the pot. I might need to, let's bend that up a little bit. I need to do it at an angle. Submerge that up to the twisty bit of wire. Pull that out. Just going to take off that extra bit there. Just pop the lid on that. And then cure that one. Oops, that's dripped. That'd be okay. Just going to keep twisting it and then pop that under the light. Cure that one. That's that one all cured. Beautiful. Right, same again with this one. Let's just give a little bit of a kink in that, and then drop that in, and then pull that out nice and slowly. Let most of that resin drip back off. Give it a little squish against the side, and keep twisting that so it doesn't gather in one place. Right, so, and then we're going to pop that one under the lamp. So that's that one all finished now as well. So we've got our 4 wings for our silver set. So I'm just going to do the same again with the gold. So I'll do that and then come back once they're finished, because I'm just going to do them exactly the same way. That's the gold set all finished now as well. So we now have a silver set and a gold set. So I'm just going to put the gold ones to one side for a minute. And I think it would be nice to add a bit of colour to the silver set. So I'm going to use the blue UV resin that Teexpert sent me. I'm just going to pop some of that into this little dish. And then I'm going to add to that some of the Hemway silver glitter. Pop some of that into there. Not too much. That would do, I think. And then just give that a mix in. And then we're going to add that to the wings. So I'm just going to drop some of this straight over the top. and then just work it around to the edges. This will also give it an extra bit of strength. So let's get this covered on there. A bit more down this end here. So that's got a little bit of sparkle to it. And then I'm just going to cure that under the lamp. So that one's done. Just adding that extra little bit of sparkle in there. So that's all my blue wings finished. So that's those ones. Let's pop those to one side for a minute. So I think for the gold ones, I'm going to use the red. So I'm going to pop some of the red UV in there. Blimey, that's really strong red. Okay, let's add some gold glitter to that one. Pop a little bit of gold in there. Hopefully this won't be too deep and you'll still be able to see through it. So I'm just going to put a really thin layer of the red on here, because that's a really lovely deep red, isn't it? So let's just do a really thin layer covering that whole wing, and then we're going to cure that. So pop that under the light. So what I'll do is I'll do this to all the red ones, or rather to all the gold ones, and then come back to you once that's all done. You don't really need to see me doing that over and over again. So I'm just going to do the same thing and then I'll see you back in a minute. So now all my wings have been coloured, I want to add some detail with like the veining going through them. So I'm going to use a black fine liner pen, and I'm just going to draw on some squiggly lines onto here, and then that would be their veins. So just add in lots of little squiggly bits. Just in all different directions. No set pattern, just here, there and everywhere. So that's how it's looking, like that. Excuse the dog hair all over my jumper. The joys of a husky. So I'm going to do the same thing. Let's just do one more with you, and then I'll do the others off camera. You don't need to see me doing this to all of them. So just add in all those little veins in there. So that's that one. Let's see if I can, let's hold it under that, that's better, isn't it? So that's the little veins going through. So I'll just finish those off with the other, the red ones and those last two blue ones, and then we can move on to making the body. So that's all my wings finished, so we can pop these to one side for a minute. To make the body, I'm going to be using some epoxy putty. This is 1:1 ratio by weight. So I'm going to start by, let's make sure my scales are on. I'm just going to tear off a bit of one part and then pop that on the scale. Not sure how much I'm going to need. Let's just keep popping a bit more on there. I'd rather have too much than not enough. So what have we got there? Just roll it into a ball. Oopsie days. Put that on there. Right, so 6.59. Let's take that off. Tear that. And then same again with the second part. What have we got there? 10. 6.56, that would do. Pop that bit back into there. And then we need to mix these two pieces together. So just squishing that all in, blending that all in. Let's give it a twist. So I'm just going to get this all nicely mixed together, and then we can use the mould as our template. They're all mixed together now, and I've just separated them into two separate balls. Let's just pop that one there out the way for a minute. So I'm going to roll this into a sausage, but thinner on that bottom end. Hopefully it won't stick to the counter there. And then I'm just going to place that into that mould there, push that down, and then hopefully we'll get that impression of the face in there. And then let's tear off a bit of that tail and then lift that out. And then just shape that a bit at the top there. So that's our first body done. Let's lay him down there. And same again with the next one. So I'm just going to do the same thing again. And then again, we're just going to squish that into the mould. Get that impression off there. Break off what we don't need on that tail, and then let's get that out gently. So there's his face. Just round off his nose bit a bit there, and then I'm just going to make that tip of the tail just a bit thinner, and then the same with that one. Just going to pop it down onto this sheet of acetate. So that one there, and then that one there. And then I'm just going to use a knife and then just add some lines down his back, just to add some more detail to him. So just all the way along. And I'll do that to both of them. And then for his legs, I've just got some more of the wire, some of the silver and some of the gold. And I'm just going to cut off enough to do his legs. So then I'm going to add his legs in. So we're going to add one that side. So they have 6 legs. So one there, one in the middle, and then one at the back. And I can shape these once it's dry. So another 3 the other side. So one in there. And one down the middle there. What let's do is back one first. Stick that in there. And then we need one more piece to go in that bit there. So that's his legs done. So I'm going to do the same for the other one. So that's the other one done, and I've put them on a just a piece of silicone. I stuck them too close together on the tray, so on the acetate. Right, so next we want to do the wings. So let's start off with the blue ones, and I'm just going to trim down some of that coil there, snip that off, and then we're going to place the wings straight in there. So that's the first one. Let's just stand that one up, and then same with the next one. Trim off some of that wire and then pop that one in there. And then we need something to hold, well, it seems to be holding. Right, let's just carry on with the other bits. So let's cut off that bit there and then stick that wing in. And then the same with the other one. And then pop that one into there. Right, so that's that first blue one done. So I'm just going to do the same thing with the red one. So that's all our wings in there now. So we're just going to leave this to cure now, this putty, and then I'll see you back for the next bit. These are both cured now, but they're going to need a bit of colour on their body. So I'm going to be using some of the Let's Resin chameleon powders. I've got plum and violet. So we'll start with the violet one, and I'm just going to cover the body with some top coat nail varnish. So just going to give that a good coating with this. And now that's all covered, I'm just going to cure that just for a few seconds under the lamp, just so as it stays tacky. So just going to give that a few seconds on each side, and then we're going to dust over this with the chameleon flakes. Well, no, not flakes, chameleon powders. So let's just cover all of this in that. Some on the bottom of his tail there, and down those side bits. And then we can do the same with the other one, but in the other colour. So nearly done with this one. So that's that one covered in the violet. It's looking very pretty. So we'll do the same thing to this one. So just going to give that a covering with the UV nail varnish. So I'm just going to do the same thing and cover all of this, and then give it a quick cure just for a few seconds, just to make it go tacky. So now I can do the same with this one and cover it with the violet powder. So I'm just going to do the same and cover all of this. So that's those two both coloured now, looking lovely. So next I just want to make sure their legs are okay. So I'm just going to trim off some of this wire and even out their legs a bit. So a little bit off of that one there, I think. And then we're just going to shape these. So I'm just going to bring those two forward like that. And then these two towards the back, and then bend those two in. That one's a bit long. Let's take that end bit off of there and bend that up. So that's that one. And then we'll do the same to this one. So that one's a bit long. Let's get rid of some of that. And then bend those upwards. Bend those ones downwards. And then that one's a bit long. Let's take a bit off that one. And then bend those in. And let's just take a little bit more off of those two. Better. Right, so finally they just need some eyes. So I'm going to use a black Posca pan, and then I'm just going to colour in their eyes with that. So that one there and there. Just give it those two little bits there. And then on the back where I did these little ridges, I'm just going to add a little bit of black down into the body there. So that's the red one. So same again with the blue one. Let's give him his little bits on the top there. Colour his eyes in. So while I'm doing this, I'd just like to say a massive thank you to Teexpert for sending out me this lovely flower kit. Although I didn't make flowers, I made these dragonflies. So hopefully I'll get around to doing some flowers next time maybe. So just finishing off this last bit here. Right, that's those two done. So thank you ever so much for watching my video today. I think I'll pop these on some flowers, so they'll sit on there. So stay tuned for the pictures at the end, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.